I found out my fiancé was cheating on me 3 days before our wedding. Not with a stranger, not with a coworker, with my own sister. The maid of honor who was supposed to stand beside me at the altar. But I didn't cancel the wedding. I didn't scream, and I didn't cry in front of them. Instead, I smiled, said nothing, and let them walk straight into the biggest mistake of their lives. Because I already had a plan, and they had no idea what was coming.
My name is Naomi. I was 29 years old, 3 days away from marrying the man I thought was my forever, Justin. We'd been together for 4 years. He proposed on a beach at sunset, down on one knee, with my entire family watching and crying happy tears. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. My mother called him the son she never had. My father shook his hand like he was already family. And my younger sister, Ivy, was the one who cried the hardest when I asked her to be my maid of honor. Ivy and I had always been close. 2 years apart, we shared clothes, shared secrets, shared a childhood bedroom until I left for college. When I got engaged, she was the first person I called. She screamed so loud on the phone that I had to hold it away from my ear. She threw herself into wedding planning like it was her own, tasting cake flavors with me, choosing bridesmaid dresses, staying up late pinning wedding decor ideas until 2 in the morning.
I should have noticed how much time she spent with Justin during all of it. Just helping him pick a gift for you, she'd say. Just grabbing lunch to talk about the seating chart. I never questioned it. Why would I? She was my sister. He was my fiancé. Trust wasn't something I thought I needed to ration. 3 days before the wedding, I stopped by Justin's apartment to drop off his suit for the final fitting. I used my spare key, expecting an empty apartment since he was supposed to be at work. He wasn't at work. I heard Ivy's laugh before I saw her. That laugh I'd known since we were children. The one that used to fill our childhood bedroom late at night. It was coming from his bedroom. I stood frozen in the hallway, suit bag still in my hand, listening to my sister's voice mixed with his, low and intimate, followed by silence that told me everything the words hadn't. I could have walked in. I could have screamed, thrown the suit bag at both of them, ended it right there in the hallway with everyone in the building hearing me. Part of me wanted to. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone. But another part of me, the colder, quieter part, told me to wait, to watch, to understand exactly how deep this went before I made a single move. So I backed away from that door as silently as I'd come in. I hung the suit bag on the coat rack, left a small note that said, "Can't wait for Saturday, love you," and walked out like nothing in the world had just shattered. That night, I didn't cry until I was alone in my car in a grocery store parking lot. Engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. And somewhere between the tears, something in me shifted. I wasn't just grieving anymore. I was planning. I didn't confront either of them that night or the next morning. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I became an investigator in my own life. I started small. I checked Justin's location on the family tracking app we'd set up for safety a year earlier. The one he'd forgotten was still active. Over the next 2 days,
His location matched Ivy's apartment twice. Both times for hours he claimed he was handling last-minute wedding stuff.
I called the florist he supposedly met with. They had no record of any appointment with him that week. I looked through old photos on our shared cloud album, the one neither of them thought I'd scroll through slowly, frame by frame. And there, buried between wedding venue photos, I found them. A screenshot Justin had accidentally synced from his phone. A message thread between him and Ivy. Dated back nearly 8 months. Long before the wedding planning had even started.
8 months. Not a moment of weakness in the final week. An entire secret relationship that had been running underneath my own engagement the whole time. I read every message twice, then a third time, my stomach turning colder with each line. They talked about how guilty they felt right before making plans to see each other again. They talked about waiting until after the wedding to figure things out. Like my marriage was simply an inconvenient timeline they needed to work around.
I sat with that information for an entire day before I told a single soul. Not because I was weak, because I needed a plan that wouldn't just hurt them, it needed to expose them completely in front of everyone who mattered. I called my best friend, Lana, who worked as a wedding coordinator and knew every vendor, every guest, every detail of Saturday's event better than I did. I told her everything. She went quiet on the phone for a long moment. And then she asked me one question that changed everything.
Do you want to cancel the wedding? She said. Or do you want them to cancel it themselves in front of everyone? I didn't answer right away, but by the time I hung up the phone, I already knew which one I wanted. I didn't say a word to Justin or Ivy for the next 2 days. I smiled at family dinners. I let Ivy zip up my wedding dress during the final fitting, her hands steady on my back like she hadn't spent the last 8 months betraying me behind it. I let Justin kiss my forehead and tell me he couldn't wait to see me walk down the aisle. Every word out of their mouths was a performance. So I decided to give them a stage worthy of it.
Lana and I built the plan together. The wedding would go on exactly as scheduled. The same venue, the same guest list, the same order of ceremony. Nothing would look different from the outside. But I made 3 quiet changes that no one else knew about. First, I asked Lana to print an extra slide for the video montage, the one traditionally played during the reception, showing photos of the couple's journey together. Buried among our real photos, I added the screenshots. Every incriminating message, time-stamped and dated, formatted to look like just another part of the montage. Second, I asked my cousin, who worked in IT, to quietly set the venue's screen and audio system to trigger the moment I gave a signal. Not during the vows, not during the ceremony, but during the reception toast, when Justin would be standing at the microphone in front of both of our families. Third, and this was the part that still makes my hands shake when I think about it, I asked Ivy, sweetly, if she would give a toast as maid of honor right after Justin's. She said yes immediately, eyes glassy with what I now recognized as guilt dressed up as sentimentality. The morning of the wedding, I got ready in a room full of people who loved me and had no idea what was coming. My mother cried doing my makeup. My father told me I looked just like my grandmother did on her wedding day, Ivy zipped up the back of my dress one final time and whispered, "You deserve this so much, Naomi." I looked at her in the mirror and said, "I know I do." I walked down the aisle in front of 120 guests, past candles and white flowers, toward a man who had spent 8 months lying to my face. I said my vows without a single crack in my voice. I meant every word about honesty and loyalty because I knew, better than anyone else in that room, exactly how much those words were about to matter. The reception moved exactly as planned, right up until the toasts began. Justin stood at the microphone, champagne glass in hand, and thanked everyone for coming. He talked about how lucky he was to have found the love of his life. He looked at me the entire time, and I smiled back at him with a calm I didn't know I was capable of. Then I nodded at Lana. The screen behind him flickered, and the montage began exactly as scheduled. Our childhood photos, our first date, our engagement on the beach. The room filled with warm laughter and soft applause. And then the photos changed. The message thread appeared on the screen, blown up large enough for every single guest to read. Dates, timestamps, words like, "I feel guilty, but I can't stop thinking about you." And, "After the wedding, we'll figure it out." Justin's name and Ivy's name, side by side, in black and white, for everyone to see.
The room went utterly silent. I watched Justin's face drain of color as he turned to look at the screen behind him, then turned back to a room full of 2 families staring at him in horror. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Ivy, who was standing near the head table waiting to give her maid of honor toast, froze completely, her champagne glass trembling in her hand. I stood up slowly, walked to the microphone Justin had abandoned, and took it from the stand with a steadiness that surprised even me. "I found out 3 days ago," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the silent room. I could have canceled the wedding. Instead, I wanted everyone here, everyone who loves me, to see exactly who I almost married, and exactly who my sister really is. I set the microphone down gently on the table, picked up my bouquet, and walked out of the reception hall alone, leaving Justin standing frozen at the front of the room, and Ivy sobbing into her hands as our entire family turned away from both of them. I didn't look back once. What happened after wasn't my problem anymore. Justin's own parents left the reception without speaking to him. Ivy tried calling me for 3 straight weeks. I never answered. The last I heard, the 2 of them were still together, isolated from a family that no longer trusted either one of them, carrying a wedding day scandal that followed them into every room they walked into afterward. I didn't get the wedding I planned, but I got something better. The truth, on my terms, in front of everyone who needed to see it. Some people think revenge is loud. Mine was quiet, patient, and impossible to walk away from unscathed. If you've ever had to hold your composure through the worst moment of your life,
You already know. The quietest kind of strength is the one no one sees coming. If this story hit you, hit subscribe, because there's a lot more where this came from. And tell me down in the comments, would you have walked in on them that day? Or waited, like I did?